Hello! So, 2017 has been a bit of a flaming dumpster, if we're to be quite honest, and it's just going right past now. And naturally, I've read some books in 2017, and I've had some favorites. I've been keeping track throughout the year, and I'm here to talk to you about my favorites in an order that is just purely chronological. Fave number 1 is actually the book I started the year with, which is very fitting, and it is History Is All You Left Me by Adam Silvera. I read a proof copy of it back in January, and it was fab. This is a contemporary following a teenager who has to deal with the death of his ex-boyfriend slash best friend slash love of his life. It's very deep, it's very wonderful, it's very heartfelt, it's very raw. Adam Silvera is a genius, that's all I'm saying. And then another one of the first books I think I've read this year, The Sun Is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon. I've heard things about Nicola's first novel, Everything, but this one is actually one of my all-time favorites. It follows two teenagers, Natasha and Daniel. Natasha is an illegal immigrant whose family is in the process of being deported, and Daniel is a Korean-American teen whose parents really want him to be like a lawyer or something. Natasha is very much the scientist, the realist, the pessimist, some may say, while Daniel is very much a poet and a dreamer, and this takes place in one day as they meet, things happen. It's very dramatic, it's very sort of lighthearted and cute while still being very important in terms of what the story is about. And it's beautifully written. It has multiple POVs because you get small chapters from people that Natasha and Daniel interact with throughout the day, and it's phenomenal. Then one of the first books I've ever taken out from my library, lo and behold, and now I'm there every other week. It's Every Heart a Doorway by Shannon Maguire. Basically is the first novel in the Wayward Children series. It's set in this house where kids that have been to, wonderful fantasy-esque worlds come so that they can sort of readjust to reality. And it's so diverse. I think the main character was Ace, and then there's a trans love interest, and it's just fabulous. I really am dying to read some of the other books in the series because this one is so magical and the writing is so poetic and the story itself is very gripping, and world building, there's so much world building in this one book because you get to see sort of bits and pieces of all the worlds from the stories of the children. It's just fabulous. And then the love of my life. I think I've spoken so much about this one book throughout the year that it just sort of became my brand at one point, and it's Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. I was lucky enough to get my hands on an arc of it, so that's how I first read it. But look at the beautiful finished copy. It's glorious. I love it. I think I said in my review, I'll link that down below, that this is pretty much a very rich flavored tea in book form, and I cannot possibly put it any better. I don't want to tell you a lot about the synopsis and plot of the book because I think, first of all, it's impossible to explain, so you actually get the grip of it. And second, it's best to go in just knowing close to nothing. It follows Laszlo, who is a librarian, an orphan. We'll see what else. And it's just beautifully written. I love Laini Taylor, if you didn't know that already. It's very rich and atmospheric, and it has these beautiful descriptions, and it's just perfect. Then I think that's pretty much the start of my non-fiction kick, and I read Bad Feminist by Roxane Gay, and that has stuck with me throughout the year. I wasn't sure if it would be a proper favorite by the end of the year, but I keep thinking back on it, and the core ideas of it are just great, and Roxane Gay's voice in terms of narrative and writing is fabulous, and I actually really enjoy her non-fiction way more than I do her fiction, and it's one of my favorite feminist reads, so I would definitely recommend that. We are moving very quickly. I then also loved Sophie Kinsella's Finding Audrey. This is a contemporary, I think it follows a 14-ish 17-year-old with severe anxiety, social anxiety, depression, yada yada yada. And she keeps wearing these sunglasses. It's a very sort of light take on a serious topic, which I enjoyed. I thought it did justice so well to Audrey's mental health issues. I added Alexander Hamilton's biography by Ron Chernow, mostly because out of everything that I've read, this is the one I do think about the most. I also see it at work every single day, and I feel compelled to share Hamilton facts with my friends, family, acquaintances, everyone I've ever come into contact with very often. So it's just beautiful. It's the only proper biography that I've ever felt like it's a solid 5 out of 5 stars. Days of Blood and Starlight by Laini Taylor. This is the second book in the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy. Can't tell you much about the plot because spoilers, but that's one of my favorite series. I really need to read the last book in it, but this couldn't not be one of my favorite books of the year. Lord of Shadows by Cassandra Clare. Is anyone surprised? I don't think so. This, again, can't tell you very much because spoilers, but this fucking book, man, this whole series, this whole world, Cassandra Clare owns my ass. It is well known. It shall remain this way into oblivion. But this book, I think she just sort of outdoes herself, because especially what I appreciated in this one that I didn't see as much of as I would have enjoyed in the previous books is that it gets political, and the analogies and metaphors are too close to real, but just perfect. We go back to lighthearted, cutesy, middle grade-ish. I really loved The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl by Shannon and Dean Hale. If it somehow isn't, somewhat obvious that I really love superheroes, I really fucking love superheroes. And I think I remembered seeing Squirrel Girl a while ago in sort of, I think it was Halls. It might have been sponsored. Who knows? Who cares, actually? Because it sounded so fun. It sounds ridiculous. It's about a girl who's 14. It sounds a bit younger. It does sort of border on the juvenile sort of character, but it's fine because it works. And she has fucking squirrel powers. It's hilarious. It's so fun. There are sort of cameos by the Avengers and stuff. It's hilarious. I love it. Another one of my solid favorites of all time, and not just this year, is The Diviners by Libba Bray. 20s America, New York to be specific. A creepy ass museum of mysticism and sort of stuff. Teenagers with powers. It's fucking fabulous. There's a Ziegfeld girl, and honestly, to a Fanny Bryce and Funny Girl fan like myself, I was hooked. It's so beautifully written. Libba Bray has slowly but surely become one of my favorite authors of all time, as it shall be mentioned in the future, wink wink. But this is just beautiful. I'm so excited to finally pick up the second volume in the series, and I'm sure that will be a favorite of next year, but so far, so great. They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. This follows two teenagers, Mateo and Rufus, who find out that they're going to die at the end of this day, and they connect with each other through this last friend app. And it's a story about living your best life in the predicament of your death. It's so powerful. It's so raw. I did see that a lot of people were getting serious anxiety because of the topic. So, do maybe beware of this one if that's something that you wouldn't be comfortable with. But it's so beautiful. I love it. I love it. The first thing I did after finishing it was to message my friend Rachel and be like, do you want to read this? Actually, you do want to read this. I'm going to bring you my copy. And she loved it. I think she has a review, or maybe she mentioned it in a wrap-up on her blog, so I will link that down below because she's fabulous. And I love this, clearly, so too much praise for it does not exist. And I do also have a review for this one that I'll link down below in case you want to see more in-depth thoughts on it. Our Dark Duet by V. Schwab, Victoria Schwab, whatever you want to call her. This is the sequel to The Savage Song and the second and final installment in the Monsters of Verity series. It's set in a futuristic type of city that's been overrun by monsters. All the monsters are born out of monstrous acts committed by humans. It's so poetic, it's so beautifully written. Just this one specifically, can't tell you much because spoilers, but it does take a lot of the core elements of book number 1 and then flip them upside down, and it's beautiful. Also, there's a cat because cats. We're keeping on the, serious tone, and I read Truthwitch and I loved it. That is the first book in the Witchland series by Suzanne Dennard. It's the favorite book of one of my best friends. Her name is G. We'll link her channel down below. It's a YA high fantasy. The main character is a truth witch. She finds out if people lie, no, sense, lies, truth, all that. And it's based a lot on friendships. The romances, or hints at romances in it, are so angsty. I have volume 2 to pick up from the library whenever it opens after the holidays. It's phenomenal. It's not very often that I feel compelled and very into high fantasy, but Truthwitch is a wonder, and Susan Dennard is a gift to the world. I read and loved the entire Chaos Walking trilogy. I'm counting them all as one because why not? But if I were to pick a favorite, I think the second book, yes, and the answer is my favorite. It's set on a different planet. It's sort of sci-fi-esque, sort of dystopian-y. Our main character, Todd, lives in a village where there's just men and everyone can hear everyone's thoughts. Honestly, yes, it does sound very much apocalyptic to me as well, because, honey, that is terrifying. There's a doggo, a good doggo, a very annoying doggo, but nevertheless. And it's fabulous. Honestly, Patrick Ness can do very little wrong when it comes to writing. He knows what up. And a change of tone once more. Why I'm no longer talking to white people about race by writing Edo Lodge, one of the best, if not the actual single best nonfiction out there. It delves into race, it's very intersectional, it's fabulous. It's one of those books that I wholeheartedly believe that everyone, their mother, their dog, everyone, just everyone ever should read. On a similar note, The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. This follows our protagonist Star, who's a teenager who sees her best friend get wrongfully shot by a police officer. And it's one of those things that's on a very serious and heavy topic, but it does keep the very teenager voice to it, and it feels authentic, and it feels raw, and it feels wonderful. It's so well written. It's clearly well loved. I met Angie at a book signing. She's fabulous. Follow her on Twitter, read her book, support her. She deserves the world. You know how I was mentioning that Libba Bray has slowly but surely become a favorite? I love Libba Bray's Beauty Queens as well. It's a satire. It's pretty much apparently a female Lord of the Flies, and it's fabulous. I don't even know what to tell you. It follows these pageant contestants' plane getting crashed on an island, and they have to survive and organize themselves, and it's funny, it's witty, it's deep, it's thought-provoking, it's just everything you could dream of. It's not everyone's cup of tea. That I've been clearly shown through reading the reviews, but if it is your cup of tea, it's your cup of tea, you know what I mean? Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. I couldn't not have Turtles All the Way Down in because it's been my most anticipated read forever, because John Green is my favorite. It follows Ava, and she and her best friend decide to take on after this missing businessman because there's a reward for whoever has a tip for the police, because Ava knew his son, and while it is about that, the plot itself sort of takes a second seat when it comes to priorities, because this is a lot about Ava's mental health. She has OCD, severe anxiety, all that. It's so raw. Again, it's so triggering for a lot of people. I felt rather triggered myself reading it, but it's so good, and it's a first-hand account of it because it's literally what John Green himself has. It's his most personal novel yet. I do, however, believe that it's one of those things that it will only really have the value for you if it's something that you can find value in. Does that make any sense? And then I read a proof copy of Spare and Found Parts by Sarah Maria Griffin. I love her. I think she's written before for a bunch of newspapers, and she has more, non-fiction-y pieces. But this is solidly her fiction debut, which I found unbelievable because the book Mates, it's pretty much a steampunky, futuristic, post-apocalyptic retelling of Frankenstein, which is literally everything I could ever ask for in my life. It's so well written. I cannot possibly stress it enough. It's so well written, and Sarah's writing is spot on. She has found her voice already. This writing style doesn't, sort of shift and move in terms of quality throughout the book at all. It remains constantly fabulous. The protagonist, it took me a while to understand why I loved her so much, but basically she's a mix of the Justice League Cyborg. I need to stress that clearly because it's not the Teen Titans Cyborg. It's very much the angsty, self-hating Justice League Cyborg. Katniss Everdeen's aversion to people, and a little bit of Dr. Frankenstein's need for greatness and change and development, and then the Frankenstein monster's desire to belong. And it's I cannot stress enough how much I love this book, and I'm so excited for it to be out in the world. It's already been out for a while in the US, so if you're from over there, do check it out. So those are my favorite reads of the year. I'm not sure if I'm going to somehow find something that I love as much in the very last few days of December, but if I do, hold me on to talking about it, please. Yes. Anyway, please do let me know if you've read any of these books, or also please do share what your favorite read or reads of the year have been. And happy 2018. Hope it's not an even bigger flaming dumpster.